All right, today we are going to pull back the curtain on one of the most powerful forces shaping, well, pretty much everything around us. It's often invisible, but it's always there. We're talking about the market economy. So let's get right into it. Think about it for a second. That phone in your hand, the cereal you had for breakfast. Who actually decides that this stuff gets made? Is there some secret grand committee somewhere? A master planner making all these calls? Well, it turns out, for a huge chunk of the world, there's no master planner at all. The answer is something called a market economy. Now, the way our source material breaks it down, it's a system where all the decisions are decentralized. It's not some central authority calling the shots, it's private people and companies. You've probably heard it called by its other name, capitalism. And this isn't some dusty old theory from a textbook, right? It's basically the operating system for some of the world's biggest economies. We're talking about places like the USA, Japan, Australia, the UK. I mean, this model is humming along in the background of daily life for literally hundreds of millions of us. Okay, so if there's no one in charge, why isn't it just total chaos? Well, it's because there are rules. Let's dig into the core principles, the rules of the game that make this whole system work. So, rule number one, and this is the big one, it's all about who owns the stuff. I'm talking about the core ingredients you need to make anything: land, factories, technology, what economists call the factors of production. In a market economy, all of that, it's owned by private people and companies, not the government. All right, principle number two. Why does anyone bother making stuff in the first place? The answer couldn't be simpler: profit. That's the main driver. The whole point of a business in this system is to make money, period. And that brings us to the third key rule. This one's about the government's role, or maybe the lack of a role. The ideal market economy is pretty hands-off. The goal is to have the least amount of government interference possible so the market can, just do its thing and regulate itself. So if the government's not steering the ship, who is? What's stopping everything from just flying apart? Well, that brings us to this kind of invisible engine that powers the whole machine. The source material we're looking at has this really great way of describing it. It calls the price mechanism a balancing wheel. It's a perfect metaphor, right? Just picture this giant central gear that somehow keeps millions of separate, individual decisions all moving together, all in harmony, and nobody has to be in charge. So how does this wheel actually turn? It's like a constant rhythm happening in 3 steps. First, you've got millions of us, you, me, businesses, all making our own independent decisions about what to buy and sell. Then all those choices smash together in the marketplace, and that's where supply and demand set a price for everything. And finally, and this is kind of the magic part, that price acts like a signal, instantly and automatically telling everyone what to do next. It coordinates the whole shebang. And it's this incredibly elegant, self-running system that ends up solving the 3 big puzzles that every single economy on the planet has to figure out. So, puzzle number 1. Out of all the millions of things we could make, what do we actually produce? The market's answer is pretty blunt, actually. It's whatever brings in the most profit. See, producers make what people are willing to pay for. If demand for something suddenly goes through the roof, the price goes up. And that higher price is like a giant, flashing neon sign for every business out there, basically yelling, hey, make more of this, over here. Okay, on to question 2. We know what's being made, but how should we make it? Well, this one is all about one thing: efficiency. And what drives that efficiency? Competition. To make the most profit, every single producer is on this constant, relentless hunt to find the cheapest way to make their stuff. They're always looking for what the system calls the least cost combination of technology. Basically, the recipe that gives them the biggest bang for their buck. All right, and now for the final question. And honestly, this might be the most important one of all. We've got all this stuff being produced. So who actually gets it? And again, the market's answer is incredibly simple. The goods go to the people with purchasing power. Or, to put it plainly, they go to whoever can afford to pay for them. And that right there, that brings us to the bottom line. What happens in the real world when you build an entire system that revolves around one thing: profit? This is where we see the direct result of that purchasing power rule we just talked about. Our source material points out that when a system is always listening to those who can pay the most, production just naturally starts to lean towards things for the rich. And the consequence of that is that the needs of people with less money, the poorer sections of society, can kind of get ignored. So you have to remember, this is the absolute bedrock of the whole system. The promise of profits is what drives businesses to grow and innovate, and the fear of losses is what gets rid of inefficient ones. This constant dance between profits and losses is really the main thing that shapes what every single producer does. And all of this leaves us with one last really big question to think about. We've seen how the market economy can be this incredible, powerful engine for making stuff. But if profit is the main goal, the one thing driving every single decision, who's looking out for everyone else?